Welcome to the Global Referral Summit. I'm your host, Pravin Shekar, and it is my pleasure to invite Cloris Kylie to the summit. Cloris is an influencer marketing specialist. She is the best-selling author of Beyond Influencer Marketing and has a podcast by the same name. She has been featured on network television, on top-ranked podcasts, and YouTube shows. Cloris' unique background in engineering and marketing allows her to arrive at effective solutions for influencer marketing, and she is joining us today to talk about ways to spark interest of influencers. Welcome, Kylie.
Pravin, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Lovely. So as we do, there's always a rapid fire section that we start off to begin with, where we request you to respond in 15 seconds or less.
Sounds great.
Lovely. So Kylie, are you ready? 15 seconds or less? Don't worry, we will be covering some parts of these questions again, where you'll have a lot more time to answer.
I am ready, Pravin.
Kylie, how do you classify influencers?
I would say there are influencers who meet the description that you would think about, celebrities and so forth. But there are also niche influencers who reach a targeted ideal audience for you. So think about both kinds when it's time for you to connect with influencers.
Why are influencers important for my business?
Well, so many reasons, but I would say influencers are really like referrals on steroids, right? They help you build authority instantly because they're introducing you to a captive audience of ideal clients.
What are the key questions I need to ask an influencer?
What I would say is the questions you have to ask yourself before you reach out to an influencer. And that first question is, do I really resonate with the influencer's message? Do we share the same values? And do they reach my ideal audience?
What is the best medium today to reach these influencers?
The medium depends on the influencer's preference. So for example, if an influencer is always on YouTube and that's the channel they're focusing on, then you're going to go and start that connection on YouTube. If it's a Facebook person, then you'll reach out to them that way. It depends on what the influencer does, and that's why you really have to know them before you reach out to them.
When you take offline, how do you reach out to such influencers?
For those, you have to know their business once again, and then find a way to deliver value. So once you find a way to deliver value, for example, if it's a local business, to write a Yelp review of their business, then you've established that first connection.
What could be one of the key matrices to measure the success of an influencer marketing campaign?
The success is determined on the tangible results in the form of new subscribers or new clients that you get out of a connection with an influencer. That's why you have to be ready and have the foundation ready to go when they introduce you to their audience.
That brings us to the end of the rapid fire. The following questions, we will have a lot more time, 2 to 3 minutes to respond to every question. And I'm going back to the first question that I asked in the rapid fire. How do I classify the influencers and why is that important?
Yeah. Well, so classifying influencers, as I said, everybody thinks about celebrities when they think about the word influencer. It could be an Instagram star or somebody like that. But the reality is that some people have targeted audiences. So for example, a leader of a meetup group, the host of a podcast that reaches a targeted audience. It could be a coach who has a Facebook group that is thriving. All of those people are influencers because there's an audience that trusts them. So when you're going to reach out to influencers, don't you think you have to connect with Oprah or Tony Robbins, right? You have to connect with influencers who appeal and reach your ideal audience. And that's when you start to see results rather than trying to reach these people that it could take years really for them to notice you.
The first question here, in continuation to your previous response, how do I reach out to these influencers?
I would say what you have to figure out is before you do the outreach process is, do I have a clear value proposition for this influencer? And the value proposition comes from your uniqueness, that is a combination of your values, your style, your offer. So all of that together, but also what matters the most to that influencer. So that's when the research piece comes into play. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to connect with somebody who has books out and they are having a new book coming out. And because you're following this influencer, you subscribe to their email updates, and then you know that's happening, right? So what do? You pre-order that book. As soon as that book is out, you read it, you post a review, and then reach out to the influencer, for example, via LinkedIn and say, I really loved your book. I actually just posted a review and this is what I said. And this is what I loved the most about your book. Then you've opened the door. Most authors, when they publish a new book, they will be so grateful that you've done this for them, and then they'll notice you, right? So that's what you want to do first, just have them notice you. And then you continue to nurture that connection up to the point that you feel that is mature enough for then them to help you. See, so they'll want to reciprocate eventually, but never go into the relationship wanting to get something out of it right away. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we can talk about later.
You mentioned value proposition. Now, how do I find or figure out who is my influencer and why he or she fits into my scheme of things?
Yes. The first thing you have to figure out is what is the specific audience this influencer is reaching. For example, if I wanted to connect, let's say, with a podcaster who has an audience of e-commerce entrepreneurs, although he might have a huge audience, it really wouldn't be the right audience for me because I mostly work with service entrepreneurs. So what would I do? I would share my message. Maybe it would be a fit, maybe not, but I would be wasting my time than sharing a message with an audience who I really don't want to reach. So you really have to make sure that that audience is perfect. Not just that, but that the style and values of this influencer match yours. Because if their audience is used to, for example, somebody who's like super aggressive and, and you're more of a calm person, then maybe the audience won't like you, right? It's not a good fit. So you have to find somebody who's really aligned with you, with your values, and who you really like. Never force yourself to reach out to an influencer because they're famous or they're way ahead of you, right? You do it because you really believe in their message.
But that's so common, isn't it? That we find a figurehead or somebody with a large following and let's just assume that connecting to them and asking for is going to be a part of my influencer marketing campaign. Would you classify that as a common error?
It is a common error. I mean, first of all, like if you only focus on celebrities or people who have audiences of millions, then you will have a hard time getting results as fast as you want. Because yes, some of those influencers you will be able to connect with. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but then you will feel like, okay, this is taking years and you're very likely to give up. So that's one of the risks. The other risk is to just target the wrong influencer. They don't share your values. You just feel like you have to because they have a huge following. And what happens is eventually when you are in front of their audience, it's a flop, right? The audience doesn't relate to you, and then you'll be wasting your time too. So I would say that the decision of whether to connect or not with an influencer, that first step is the most important step. Because then remember, your time is valuable. You don't want to be spending time and effort trying to reach out to somebody who's really not a good fit for you and your business.
Where I come from, Cloris, there's also a cultural mind block. How can I just go and ask a stranger? He's got or she has got this kind of a following. Forget the medium here, online or offline, there's always this hesitation to go ahead. Which one would you recommend? Is it better to do it face-to-face, over a Zoom call, or just send an email across?
I would say whatever you're more comfortable with the keeping in mind that the value comes first always. So I'm just thinking, let's say that you're walking on the street and then you see somebody like an old lady struggling carrying a bunch of grocery bags, and she's like, the grocery bags are falling. What would you do? Wouldn't you go and go help? Say, oh, can I help you, right? And this lady is a complete stranger to you, but because you want to help, you don't even think about it. You're like, oh, I just want to help, right? So that's the same mindset when you're going to connect with an influencer. You just want to help. You admire them, you appreciate the value they deliver to their audience, and you want to start by helping them, right? And you might be thinking, well, I'm not there yet. How can I help them if I'm starting out, or if I only have a couple of thousand subscribers? How can I compare to them? But I tell you that you have value to offer to an influencer right now. And that value could be something as simple, as I said before, as posting a review of their book, as subscribing to their podcast and posting a review, and of course, always letting them know. It could be something as simple as posting a recommendation on LinkedIn about something they have done for you. And it could be also something simple as buying one of their courses and creating a testimonial about that course, just because it's true, because it really made a difference in your life. So just giving feedback, just showing that influencer how they have changed your life is amazing value. And I tell you, like, influencers, you might think they get thousands of letters every day with people saying how they have changed their lives, and the truth is different, right? Most of these influencers don't hear from people, and if you're there just telling them how they have changed your life, you will stand out.
Now, the bulk of our viewers are entrepreneurs and marketers, and I would really request you to dispel some myths around influencers and influencer marketing.
Some of the things, I think one of the biggest myths is that you have to have a huge following, you have to have a book written or some sort of big platform, a podcast, to be ready to connect with influencers. But the truth is that you are ready regardless of the stage of your business. Because of that, the fact that you can deliver value to someone regardless of where you are in your business, then makes you be ready to connect with them. I would say other people think, oh, I have a business that, I make this much, or I have this many subscribers. I'm ready, right? Just because of that. But the truth is that, yes, you need the value first, but you also need to be ready then that when you connect with the influencer, you get tangible results. A common mistake people make is that they say, okay, I have value to offer. I'm going to go and reach out. The influencer really likes what you have to do or say, and they say, okay, I'm going to support you. And they want to interview you on their show, or they want to post your article, or something that, really is a big opportunity. But the opportunity goes to waste because you didn't take the time to create a message just for their audience, a lead magnet just for their audience, a specific link for that influencer. So, you cannot track results. You don't know how many people opted into your list because of the interaction with the influencer. You don't know if what you're doing is working. So you're wasting an opportunity. So I would say getting ready includes knowing how to give value and also having that foundation ready so that you get tangible results.
Good. You spoke about messaging. Who comes up with that message? Is it done in conjunction with the influencer? Is it done by, for example, my marketing team then passed on to the influencer? How does that work?
Well, you'd really have to know the influencer's audience, right? Let's say, for example, that you want to be on somebody's podcast. Don't make the huge mistake of people like not even listening to the podcast before you reach out to the influencer, right? You have to know who they have interviewed, the topics they have covered. If there's a way to track how many listens he has had for each guest, would be ideal. With a blog post, it's easy because you can check the most common blog posts. And then you see what resonates with their audience. You see what people want, what they don't want, and what's missing. So if you have something to add that it fits in that gap, you have to fill the gap. Or you can go deeper into a topic that was really popular, then you have the right message for their audience. You have something that when they listen to it, they're like, oh, this is great. And then they want to learn more about you. See, so remember, you're not just connecting with an influencer, but with their audience.
Lovely. I've figured out who the influencer is, who the audience is, what message resonates, and I come up with a message. What is the role of an influencer here? Does he or she just translate this message or weave it into the podcast or messaging, or do we co-create it?
We basically co-create. Yeah, what the influencer's role is is of somebody who has vetted you, like who knows your skills and value, and who's saying, hey, here's Pravin, he knows his stuff, and he's here to share with you X and Y. So it's just like when you're going to, find an accountant or a doctor, right? You ask, hey, who's your doctor? You like him. You look for a referral, right? It's always the same. You're going to buy a book, you go to Amazon, you read the reviews. You're always seeking that social proof. What the influencer is doing for you is that he is providing or she is providing that social proof ahead of time. So when people are going to listen to you, you're not just a stranger sharing some sort of message that they don't know if it will be of value. It's somebody they admire saying, hey, listen to her or him. They have something valuable to offer.
So here's a scenario. I know you also advise a lot of businesses on influencer marketing and marketing in general. Let's say I have a small business. Over the last couple of years, we've hit $150,000 in turnover. But now I want to grow the revenue. I've come out with my target audience and the influencers that are there. How do I figure out how many influencers I would need?
That is a great question. I would say never focus on too many influencers and too many connections, because there's something I believe, and I think that's why I call my book Beyond Influencer Marketing. And it's the fact that you're there for the long term. Okay, if you go and you say, okay, I'm going to send a blast to 500 Instagram influencers, and let's see who says yes, and the more the merrier, right? So I can reach more people. Then you're making a big mistake, because then yes, a couple of them will say yes just because you're paying them. They'll do a shout out, and it's over. And then what? And then you gotta go out and find more influencers, and you haven't established a relationship. But when you take the time to really get to know the person, to establish a relationship, then only with a handful of influencers, you have enough. Like, let's say, for example, you focus on 3 to 5 people to start with. Create those relationships. Guess what's going to happen? The influencers will want to introduce you to other influencers. And that's how you really start to build your network. So the least when you're not thinking about it, oh my God, I have 100 influencer connections. So I would say start small. Start with people who you really relate to their message, you really like, you would want to be like, right? You want to spend time with them, create a relationship, and those relationships will turn into many other relationships. So that's my advice. Always think long-term when you're connecting with people.
Using the same case study example, the next question that comes over is the foundation of metrics. How should I measure? What should I measure? And how does that feed into my overall marketing scheme of things?
Yes, there are software applications that could allow you to track, when you're reaching out to influencers in mass, in like a mass number of outreach messages. However, I would say something as simple as creating a pretty link with a plugin on your WordPress site that you provide to every influencer when they feature you is enough for you to know how many people opted in for your lead magnet, how many people were interested in your offer. So something could be, don't make it so complicated in your mind that you never start. You say, oh no, I have to have the software first, and then you never do it, right? So something as simple as a pretty link. You could also do something a little bit more sophisticated, such as having affiliate links for influencers. So if you are giving a presentation in front of their audience, if you are at a more advanced level of your relationship and you're doing a JV partnership, then yes, you have an affiliate link. You know how many people clicked, how many people opted in, how many people purchased, all those things. So yes, if you could do that, then that would be great. But don't let the technology stop you from connecting with the influencers and from sharing your message with their audience.
You mentioned long term. However, as this particular case study company grows from 150,000 to 300 to 500,000 to a million and above, as the scale of the business keeps growing, the type of influencer also needs to change. What's your take on that?
I would say as your business grows, you will also gain more experience, you will have stronger connections, and that means that you will be better positioned to reach out to the larger influencers. Yes, it's just an evolution. So for example, if you have had, let's say that your company posted an article on Addicted to Success, which is a big site for entrepreneurs, success related. But at the same time, it's not impossible to achieve in the early stages of your business. So you publish your article. It did great. It had a lot of shares and comments and stuff. Then you have that article to reach out to other websites. So let's say you want to publish on Forbes. Then you send, oh, here's a sample. I just posted an article on Addicted to Success. And then Forbes says yes. So then you have the Forbes and to leverage that experience to reach out to larger influencers. So yes, the more experience you have, the more you can leverage those appearances and endorsements to get even larger endorsements.
Good. In continuation to the same question, the first part of our interview today was about the approach, and also the midsection was on building these relationships. Now, my question to you is the duration of an engagement. What will be the ideal duration, and how do I recuse myself from that once my goal is achieved?
That's a great question, Pravin. I would say when you connect with an influencer, you must have in mind a short-term objective and a long-term objective. So depending on the influencer, those objectives will be different. Let's say, for example, that I want to connect with a top influencer. Then my short-term objective might just be that they reply to my email. I've been emailing them forever. They eventually reply. So that's a short-term objective. But my long-term objective really is to be featured, let's say, on their YouTube channel or on their podcast, or even to go into a joint venture partnership with them, right? So if you have that long-term objective in mind, once you get that first reply, then you ask yourself, okay, what's next? How can I deliver more value to stand out even more so I can then get on the phone with them or on a Zoom call? What do I have to do next to get to eventually to that spot when I'm featured in front of their audience? So I would say if you have these objectives in mind, then you'll know what to do. Some of the niche influencers you might be able to collaborate with right away. So let's say they have you as a guest speaker in the meetup group or their networking group that they have. They'll have you as a speaker right away. Or somebody who has a smaller size blog publishes your article right away. That's okay. What I wouldn't want you to think is, okay, I published my article, I'm done. No, it's like, what's next, right? How can I continue to post articles on this blog? And what else can I do with this person to collaborate? Maybe they also have a Facebook group, and I can propose, I've written these articles for your blog. Can I give a presentation to your Facebook group about the topic of my article? They might say yes. So you always think of what's next. See, so you achieve one objective and then what's next. So that relationship becomes a long-term relationship that keeps giving and giving to both parties, really.
As with any technique in marketing, there are perceptions that are good and bad. And certain sections of the entrepreneur community believe influencer marketing is not the right approach. I'm not putting you in a spot, but I'd love to know your views on that.
I would say relationships will never be out of style. It will never stop working. I think we're all in the business of building relationships, right? That's what we do every day. We build relationships with our audience, build relationships with our clients, build relationships with partners. So that's, in my mind, that's what influencer marketing really is. It's about creating relationships. Yes, some of these people might not feature you in front of their audiences, but they might introduce you to someone who will. See, so when you meet someone, like I remember a speaker I was watching at a conference. He said, when I meet someone, I'm sitting next to them. I'm not gonna say, hey, I'm a website developer. Do you need a website? And if they say no, that's it. No, I'm gonna say, hey, who do you know? Who do you know? Who can you introduce me to? And maybe one of those people needs a website, because that's what I do. So same story. When you connect with someone, you will have those doors open for you to meet many other people. And once you have those connections, that's when things happen in your business. And it's something that you really cannot achieve with just marketing through advertising or creating your own content as an isolated entity. Really, you need to work with other people, and that's what influencer marketing is all about.
Let me turn the question around. How do I, as a company, as a brand, attract some of these influencers?
Well, if you build influence and you become an influencer yourself, then you'll become a magnet to influencers. And that is something that I have experienced. Grateful for it in my business, as I have published my book. A great way to build authority is to publish a book. I've had people reach out to me because they read my book. They want to collaborate. They want to feature me. I have people now, because I have my podcast, then influencers reach out to me because they want to be on my podcast. So I don't have to be out kind of fishing for somebody to be on my podcast anymore, right? They know about me. They know what I have done. I have built influence. So now they're seeking me. So think about in your own business, how can you build influence, right? You build influence by creating something of value, such as a book or a keynote speech, right? You go out and you give a TEDx talk, you build influence. Or you have your own content platform, right? You create a podcast, you create a blog that is you have actually a lot of visitors going to your blog, you create a summit, things like that, to become a person of influence.
That's how we got in touch with you for the Global Referral Summit, Cloris.
There you go.
Now, what not to do as I devise my influencer marketing strategy?
Well, the first thing we already talked about is to limit yourself when it comes to who to reach out to. Oh, I only want to connect with these 3 top celebrities. Then, of course, you limit yourself. Or I only want to connect with people who reach this small segment of my niche audience. So don't be too limiting, I guess. Expand your horizons, but at the same time, remember that the audience has to be the ideal audience for you, right? So it could be a smaller sized audience. That's okay. Yes, you could bring in some celebrities to the mix, and that's okay. Now, another big mistake is to go out into the outreach process, not quite believing that it's possible for you to create this relationship. So what happens when you have this mindset is that the influencer will know that, if it's in a written form, they will read it through your message. If you're speaking with them, they will sense that something's odd. Even your own actions, so the actions that you take will be such that match your beliefs. So if you don't believe it's possible, then maybe you'll send a kind of like a very poorly written email, something like that doesn't really reflect who you are. So you definitely have to do that work, internal work, realize your value, put down the things that make you valuable, how you could deliver value to that influencer. And once you see all that value in front of you, it's like, oh, of course I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Just take small steps, connect with smaller influencers first, prove to yourself that it's possible, and then go out there and reach out to influencers who have a larger audience. And then the next big mistake people make is to not be ready when they reach out to the influencers. So yes, they have this great opportunity. They're featured on a blog or a podcast or a summit. And then all they say is, oh yes, go to my website. And that's the end of it. So a small percent of people might visit your website and just check it out. That's nice. That's it. You're out of mind. But if instead you have a specific offer for them, I have a report for you. It's exactly what you need to know after the presentation I just gave. And it's at this link. Just go and grab it now. Then people will take action and you'll see tangible results.
Lovely. You mentioned about your book. Please share what it's about, what it covers, and who it is for.
Yeah, thank you, Pravin, for asking. It's called Beyond Influencer Marketing. I have it right here. And it really is about creating long-term connections with influential people to do that, to build authority, grow your list, boost revenue. But the focus is on long-term connections. So I just go over all that, the mindset, how to select the right influencers, and then the different kinds of yeah, kinds of influencer audiences like podcasters and YouTubers, people who have a blog, bloggers, coaches, trainers, local businesses, how to reach out to each category of influencer, so you know exactly what to do and how to create that relationship so for the long term. Yes.
Thank you. In the recent past, what are the other books that you've read that have impressed you quite a lot? I would love to know for myself and for our viewers here.
Well, a must have and a book that I always give to my clients is The Go Giver by Bob Burg. And the philosophy within The Go Giver is the same philosophy I have or I had when I wrote my book. It's about giving value first. And once you have a value mindset, then you'll see results. If you go into the whole relationship with a thinking, okay, what can I get out of this, and when am I going to get results, and then again, your behaviors, your thoughts will match that, and the other person will just sense that, and you will really not get anywhere. So definitely recommend it, The Go Giver by Bob Burg.
Thank you. Bob Berg is also part of the Global Referral Summit. We'll be interviewing him and relaying it very soon.
Well, that's wonderful.
If there is one big takeaway that you would recommend, Cloris, for our entrepreneurs here to take back and implement straight into their business, what would it be?
Well, the first step is for you to realize your value proposition. So I really want you to think about, okay, what are the things that I bring to the table? What are the things that I have, my experience, my values, my style that I could deliver to an influencer? And then think about one person you've always wanted to connect with, and then choose out of that list that you created, which is the best for that particular influencer. How can you deliver value to that person? And once you have pinpointed that, then do it. Okay, that's your first action step. Just go do it, create that first connection.
Lovely. How do we get in touch with you, Cloris?
Oh, thank you, Pravin. You can just go to cloriskylie.com, and if you go to cloriskylie.com/referral summit, then you will be able to download my influencer marketing guide with 15 ways you can use right away to get the attention of influencers and start that relationship.
Oh, thank you very much for the lovely offer. It's been a pleasure having you, Cloris. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pravin.